And I say it's a good thing that I don't work in the ER, because if I had access to heroin, I would be trying to get as much of that as I can on the side to sell it.
So,
Hello and welcome to Things We Talk About, a podcast where we have conversations that matter. I am your host, Randall Thomas. With me, as always, by my side, always and forever, the bisexual intellectual, Lazarus Kane.
okay. Yeah, I like how you timed that, right? Instead of waiting for boners. Right?
Yeah, I left that in there because I thought you might like it. A big old boner in your face every episode.
There we go.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know you as well as I think I do.
Soon, I'm sure.
So what's up, man? Let's before we get into it, I need to share something with you. And I feel like I've told you before, probably, but I don't remember.
Okay.
But I fucked up my hand. As you know. As you know.
Okay.
Because I remember specifically telling you I fucked up my hand.
Okay.
Hurts really bad. It hurts when I move it. It hurts when I twist it. It hurts when...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, think of the most heroic way that somebody can hurt their hand.
Okay.
What comes to your mind?
Punching a gunman in the face.
Punching a gunman in the face. We're
Yeah.
going to assume that the gunman's a bad guy, but we don't know.
That's true.
But people's lives were at stake.
People's lives were
and
at
I
stake.
saved the day by punching a gunman in the face.
Punching a bear in the face.
Punching a bear in the face. So it's like if we went back in time during Revenant and I saved Leonardo DiCaprio...
Yeah.
And then by a degree saving his son.
Yeah.
By punching a bear in the face.
Yeah.
Because you said that, that's now canon.
Yeah, that's what happened.
And that's what happened.
Okay.
So, I have a fucked up hand. And I know it hurts because I type on a keyboard all day.
Okay.
And it hurts when I type. It hurts when I do anything. But like an idiot, I went to the gym.
Okay.
And I do what I normally do. I start off with my cardio.
Mm-hmm.
By getting out of the car and walking to the weight section. it's my cardio.
Cardio.
And I walk over and, start putting the weights on the sides of the bench.
Mm-hmm.
I go to lay down on said bench. And it's always the same, because I go during my lunch break, which is middle of the day, and it's always like the same 20 people there every day that I'm there during that time. Because some people go into lunch break, some people I think are unemployed and all they do is exercise. Because there's like 4 or 5 dudes that are in the weight section, and I mean, I'm strong and I'm a little brawny, but these guys are like
Jacked.
all sorts of jacked. So this one guy, whom I'm going to refer to as Super Jack, don't get excited, Super Jack, he came over, nodded, like when you make eye contact with people, there's this weird, it's this weird thing, because it's like, you look at him and you look away real quick, but you're like, fuck, he looked at me too. Now I gotta like acknowledge the fact that I wasn't just checking him out. Otherwise it's gay. So I look at him.
So weird.
It really is.
Weird.
It's so backwards. So I look at him and I go, I do the head nod, like, sup, bro?
Sup,
dude? Yeah, I'm here. I'm at the gym too, dog.
I too am heterosexual.
And then he does like the nod, like acceptance, like he accepts
Yeah.
my
We don't have
homage.
hats to tip anymore, so we gotta figure it out.
We twitch our heads instead,
Yeah.
which is so stupid. So I did that, and I go and I put the weights on. I go to lay down on the bench.
Okay.
Super Jack is probably like 2 benches over from me. And I go and I put my arms on the bell or on the bar, and I push up, and it's over, and then I feel my hand wiggle and wiggle, and then it gives out.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here, and it's like my starting reps, which is a lot lower weight than I normally do when I lift weights, and it crushes my chest, and I can't breathe. And normally I would have just took the time and been like, okay, concentrate, adrenaline, push.
Power through it.
But
yeah.
Super Jack saw it, and he comes running over to save the day, and he goes in with like his pinky and reaches around and pulls it up. And it was honestly one of the most humiliating and emotionally damaging moments of my adult life, because these are not that like these people are important, but like for this aspect of my life, these people are important because they see me all the time. We make non-homosexual nods at each other and gestures at each other, and now my pride is wounded, my chest is wounded, and my hand is wounded, and it hurts. It hurts
all over the place,
physically and emotionally.
7 shades of pain.
And I I really wish I had something that could alleviate pain.
Okay, that sounds like a ham-fisted transition.
Both an emotional and physical pain.
Yeah.
So what exactly are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about opiates.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know about emotional pain, although people certainly do use them to escape life.
Yeah.
In much the same way alcohol is used. So.
Or video games
or whatever.
reality TV, Facebook.
Yeah. So there's a lot of like really strong feelings around opiates in Western culture, especially in U.S. culture, and I'm not sure a lot of it is well placed.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Go for it.
For those of us that don't know,
Yeah.
what is an opiate?
What is an opiate? There we go. That's a great place to start. The beginning. So, opiates is basically anything that starts with the opium plant, like
Okay.
poppies.
Milk of the poppy.
Yeah, milk of the poppy.
Okay.
Yeah. That's with an O, Poppy, not Pappy. That's completely
Milk of the
different. Poppy.
Pop. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a Hispanic tradition.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, so originally it was just basically you just dried out the sap from the poppy plant, and then you could smoke that and stuff like
Well,
that.
where is the poppy plant indigenous?
That is a good question. And I wrote that down. So one moment. It is specifically the opium poppy, not all poppies.
Well, did you know poppy seeds are
Yes.
from the opium plant?
Yeah.
And if you eat a lot of poppy seeds, you will test positive. And
Yes, you'll get a false positive. That's what I hear.
Well, there's a positive because you did consume opium, and then you are testing for opium.
Well, yeah, but they're not testing positive for what they're testing. They're testing for, you know what I mean. So basically, it's pretty much the Eastern Mediterranean.
Eastern Mediterranean.
Yeah, where they've been introduced to places like the British Isles, but that's pretty much
Like
where it
Eastern
is.
Mediterranean, you're talking about like Romania. You're talking
about then in I think is Greece Eastern Mediterranean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Central Mediterranean. but
Yeah. And so then there would probably be like Northern Morocco.
Okay.
I think. Yeah.
What about what's that country in Europe that's like the Mexico of Europe?
Spain?
No, not literally related to Mexico, but it's like when people hear, like for Hispanics, when someone hears you're from Mexico, like other Hispanics kind of crap on Mexicans. And then there is a country in Europe that they say, oh, I'm European, and Bosnia.
Okay.
Bosnia is the Mexico of Europe.
Is
other
it?
Europeans,
I have not heard that.
I have heard that, and I knew a guy who I worked with for a short time who was from Bosnia, and he just told like girls he was from Eastern Europe. And if they asked specifically, he would dodge the subject because he knew for a fact he would like be frowned on for being from Bosnia.
Yeah. There's a lot of war going on for a while too.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
The whole eastern side of Europe, it's hard to keep up.
Yeah.
So it's from the Mediterranean, Eastern Mediterranean areas, some
Been
parts of Greece.
introduced to the British Isles and stuff like that.
See, when I think of opium, though, for some reason I just connect it with Asia.
You know why that is?
I don't.
That specifically has to do with a period in Chinese and British history called the Opium Wars. So, like the Spanish and the British and the French, they rolled into the New World and they pretty much
Took everything.
Took everything they could.
Right.
They did the same thing to Africa, right? They carved it up like a cake. The thing is that it's not like there was no one there, even though that's the way Western history sort of likes to paint things. Just sort of like not talk about the fact that there were entire civilizations already there.
Right.
But they were there. And that didn't stop Western Europe from carving up the New World in Africa like a cake. The question then becomes like, well, why didn't that happen in China, in Japan, in Asia? because there were already people there. You'd think it would be the same
Yeah,
thing.
but I think, pardon my ignorance,
No, go for it. I asked you a question.
China is less of a third world than Africa.
Well, first, second, third world. Those are labels that aren't super useful. It turns out. But even still, like back then, like you're right. You're not wrong. The Chinese had gunpowder.
Yeah.
So,
And math.
but still, oh yeah, well, that's true. The Aztecs had math.
Oh, true. That didn't help them.
That didn't help
That didn't
them
help their
at
immune
all.
systems one bit.
Yeah. And so, but you're right. The Chinese had far more they had walled cities.
Right.
They were far more fortified. But even still, not like that's ever stopped France, right? There for centuries, France, even a millennia and a half or so, France had the most fearsome army in the world, or at least in the Western world. So walled cities and stuff like that. Napoleon almost took over the known world, right?
Right.
So it's not like walled cities ever really stopped them. But China proved to be not easy prey for the British. And so the British at some point decided to, stop trying to do that. And so what they did instead was they introduced opium to China.
To kind of alleviate their population.
Well, to addict them, basically, to force them into a trade relationship.
Sounds familiar. to American history.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't invent that.
No.
So we got that from mother country. We got that from dear old UK, mom. So
Mum.
yeah, mom. Yeah. So that's why we associate it, is because it was deliberately introduced into China.
Okay.
And
See, I
where
didn't know
it took
that.
root in like the lower classes and stuff like that because life was shitty.
Right. Well, I just when someone even mentions opium, I think of like a religious setting in China. Part of their religious experience is to smoke opium and do whatever the fuck they do.
I don't know if that's a thing, but sure.
No, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just more where my thought goes.
Yeah. That's
Whether that's valid or not, honestly, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
Because I'm being corrected as we speak. So you're saying that opium was not originally a Chinese thing. It was introduced to the population to
Pacify them.
cause addiction and pacify them.
Yeah.
Now, I have a friend who believes that the United States puts fluoride in their water to pacify our population. Is that the same thing?
No longer speak to that person. They are not your friend. So the first Opium War, so actually I had my dates wrong. The first Opium War was 1839 to 1842. And then the second one was 1856 to 1860. So relatively...
Wow, that wasn't that long ago.
No, it was not. Basically, what it did, they succeeded because what they did was they weakened the ruling dynasty at the time and forced China to trade with the rest of the world. Because China didn't feel like China had to deal with anyone that China didn't want to have to deal with.
And at the time, they were right.
Yeah, exactly. And it wasn't until like these wars that were deliberately instigated by the West.
Now, do you feel like they're going back into that?
China's saying... No, I don't think they have a choice. They can't do that anymore. And neither can we. But it's so the first Opium War is actually how the UK got Hong Kong in the first place.
Right.
So
I didn't know it was an opium war. I knew it was a war.
Yeah. So part of the treaty was them, opening their ports and giving away Hong Kong. Spoils of war.
Crazy. Now, what was the reason for the war? Was it just command and conquer?
It was basically there were disputes over British trade with China and China's sovereignty. Basically, the UK, the British saw, China as within the British sphere of influence, and China disagreed, so the British went to war.
Interesting. And who was it leading the charge? You said Napoleon?
No.
I
Because
thought he
Napoleon
was,
is
right.
France.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Napoleon was just used to illustrate that, all of the fortifications and stuff like that the Chinese had that the New World didn't, in other settings, did not slow the European war machine down, right? Because Napoleon, took Rome, stuff like that.
Right, which is a huge deal.
Huge deal.
So we're saying that the opium plant was handed there by the British in order to pacify the population to
It was
force
shipped
China.
there. Yeah, so it would have been shipped. It wouldn't have been grown there. It would have been trade because basically the UK forced them to have a product that they needed, that there was high demand. They artificially introduced it to the market, and then once the market had it, they were crazy addicted.
No, you might not know this, but at the time, was opium illegal in Britain?
I don't know. I don't have an answer for that.
Okay, because that would be super fucked up.
Think so, but it wouldn't be the first time that the British did something like that, because during most of U.S. history, slavery was illegal.
Yeah.
So like during the Civil War and stuff like that, slavery was illegal in the UK, but it was still very much, even when they were colonies, was still very much utilized in the U.S.
Yeah, I did know that. They didn't use it directly, but they used it by degree.
Yeah, their corporations used it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the umbrella of the United Kingdom did not.
Yes. It had to do with, because the laws that governed the colonies were not the same laws that governed Britain proper.
Right. Interesting.
So, yeah.
Yeah, because that actually happened before the Poppy Wars.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so you mentioned something at the beginning of the episode about people's wariness towards the use of opium.
Yeah.
Now, what do you mean by that?
I think that it's almost like a specter, because heroin is an opiate, for example. And funny enough, not funny, haha, but still, heroin was created because people were having such addiction problems with morphine, and so heroin was created because it was supposed to be less addictive.
And for those of us on this side of the table, by heroin you mean smack, right?
Is that a euphemism for heroin?
I think so.
It's the opiate that you inject.
Yes.
That you
cook it
heat with a spoon.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
great.
Yeah. I wouldn't know. So you make morphine from opium, and then you make heroin from morphine.
Now, are you familiar with the process at all, or no?
No.
Okay. Probably better off that way.
Yeah, probably.
So
it does sound like something I would know, though.
Yeah, and you hear all the time.
We have to look it up.
Heroin being an expensive drug, but you see it all the time with a lot of celebrities and people in the media that are either addicted to or have died from heroin overdose.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the wariness, because one of our heroes of the world, celebrities, dies on heroin, everyone goes, "Oh, what a shame." Now, you're saying it's not that bad?
Well, I think so. I guess this is going to turn into an episode on addiction, which we were planning on doing anyway.
Well, we'll touch on it.
Well, because it's important here. Like, if we can't talk about opiates and not talk about addiction, and I'm loath to talk about a subject and pretend that emerging science doesn't exist.
Okay.
In order just to have a whole episode about that emerging science.
Oh, that's fair.
Right?
Yeah, I'm okay.
If we'll see what comes out in this episode, and if there's enough material or something, we'll make a whole nother episode. But yes, that's what I'm saying. I am not saying that there aren't people who get crazy addicted to it, and that if you accept this, so there are two kinds of addiction. Our current model, the current dominant model of addiction, which is a really weird way to put things, but that's going to come up a lot on this podcast, how the paradigm, which is to say the way we think about things, is just a way we think about things. It's not necessarily the way things are.
It's a culture thing.
Yeah,
it's what we're taught.
Yeah, so it's like scientific culture, right? So it is the current way we think about things when we operate. It allows us to not have to reinvent the wheel every time we want to write a paper or something.
Right. It builds upon itself.
Right. The problem is that that mentality tends to either prevent us from developing contrary evidence, right? Or seeing contrary evidence when it just shows up.
Because we look at it and we don't even question
We
it.
don't even question it. We don't even see it because our brain is not
Right.
looking for it. Or we're like, error, statistical error. And really, statistics are really important when we talk about addiction because the current model says there are two kinds of addiction.
Interesting.
There's psychological addiction,
Right.
which is you think that you need this, but you don't. And
Like watching TV or checking your Facebook.
yeah, and even some substances like caffeine is considered to be
A psychological.
a psychological addiction. And this is usually the substances, right? And our traditional model of addiction really doesn't cover non-substances. Like, we talk about gambling addiction, but it's more like this is a neuroses or whatever.
Yeah, I agree with
that
you.
resembles addiction.
Right.
So we're not...
Yeah, I mean, that's also why I feel like the funding and the science isn't there, because everyone knows that this is a psychological thing and not a physical thing.
Right.
Yeah.
With the traditional model, when we talk about gambling, that's not actually addiction. It's a compulsion.
Yeah, that's a good word for it.
Yeah, so it's a compulsion, not an addiction, and just the slang is gambling addiction, because that's what it looks like. So the psychological addiction is like stuff without serious withdrawal symptoms or no withdrawal symptoms whatsoever. Stuff that you really want to use, almost compelled to use, right? But that you can, like caffeine doesn't have serious withdrawal effects. Having been someone who has taken in frankly reckless amounts of caffeine for an extended period of time, I can tell you that if you cut that cold turkey, there are withdrawal
you'll get
effects.
headaches.
Yeah, well, you get headaches and you will feel like crap.
Yeah, I've done it.
Yeah. But if you have to take in, I will tell you from experience, if you have to take in that much caffeine, your body needs probably something else, like Adderall or some other stimulant. That's what it was with me.
Yeah, I switched to water, but I know what you mean.
Yeah. Whatever, man.
Because I used to have a giant cup in the morning, followed by another giant cup. And by giant cup, it's a huge mug, so it's basically 2 cups.
Yeah, number one dad.
The number one dad mug. And then I'd have another cup of that size around 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
And that's...
Well, if dehydration was your issue, coffee is not the way to go.
Like I said, I cut a lot of it out, and I drink water all day.
Yeah. So anyway, so physical addiction.
Right.
Is the other one. And so that is like you try it once. Usually it's like there are a certain number of times, but usually like the implication is if it is a physical addiction, the first time you try it, there is a chance that it gets its hooks into you and your body needs it. Like it tricks your brain into thinking that you need it.
Right.
Heroin is famous for being, it only takes the once.
Yeah, my mom's boyfriend, no longer alive, but when he was alive, he had a brother, and he was probably our age, and he was a roofer. And his first day on the job at this one condo he was building, and this is back in the 80s, someone walked up to him, offered him a little bit of heroin, said to make him feel great.
Sure, whatever the hell.
And he's like, yeah, whatever. And the education wasn't there back then, at least not.
There was no DARE program.
Yeah, well, again, so people weren't... It's like, okay, sure, whatever. I've heard about this thing, and you're telling me it makes me feel great. And so he tries it once and dies.
Yep, that'll happen.
Yep.
So, and again, we're going to do a whole episode on the war on drugs, but...
Eventually.
Yeah, no, that'll probably be sooner than later. So one of the big issues is that because opiates are largely illegal, you can get a prescription for them, for a lot of them. And there are more than just morphine and heroin.
There's hydrocodone,
codeine, and stuff like that. Because they're illegal, like heroin is illegal, there's no regulatory body overseeing it. So he may not have even shot up heroin. Or
it could have been something else.
It could have been half heroin and half drain cleaner.
Rat poison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
agree. I agree with that.
Yeah. So that is that's one of the issues there. So here's the thing though. So you say you're in the gym, right? We're gonna
As I do.
Rewind
Okay.
to that story and say your hand, instead of like being a trooper and like giving it a little bit before you gave up.
Before Super Jack saved the day.
Yeah. Say Super Jack. So like you sort of like you feel this pain in your hand and it ricochets down to your elbow.
Okay.
Which causes you to like reflexively just like drop it and it cracks your ribs. Like your sternum. Right? Totally possible. And at which point you're in a bad way.
An insane amount of pain.
Yeah.
Right.
And probably also your ribs. You know what I mean? Like whatever ribs were like right where the bar.
If it's not even piercing my lungs, but severe damage.
Yeah. You're gonna live because you live in 2017, right? You won't be permanently hobbled for the rest of your life. So they will rush you in the ambulance. The ambulance will show up and they will take you to the hospital. And you will be in an intense amount of pain. Usually the example I use when I tell this allegory is it's winter and the sidewalk is icy. That does happen in Florida from time to time. Not within the last couple of years. But
it's been a while.
2016 was actually the hottest year on record ever.
I was going to say, we had like 1 or 2 cold days and that was it.
Yeah. Like period. Like, and we've been we've doing weather for like 200 years. You like tracking that sort of thing. So anyway, so you trip or something like that and you break your hip. Right? Same sort of thing. It's an intense pain. You get sent off to the hospital. And either in the ambulance or at the emergency room, right? They're going to give you diamorphine.
Diamorphine. Okay.
Which is a very technical name. And it's heroin.
Oh, okay.
It is medical grade heroin.
So that's the best way to get it for free, is to hurt myself really bad.
Yeah.
And I get free snack.
So like, and you've seen in medical dramas and stuff like that, they have like the button.
It's a pretty big assumption, the fact that I watch medical dramas.
I mean, or move something like that,
okay.
Like, where they've got the button to dispense like painkillers, stuff like that. Yeah. So that you would have one of those, but for diamorphine. So if your pain suddenly started to flare up, you'd be able to give it to yourself to a certain amount, and you would be in there for I don't know how long. We'll say a week.
Okay.
Right, while they like made sure you actually didn't puncture anything or whatever. For observation. During this time, you are receiving diamorphine the whole time, right?
Right.
To my knowledge. I'm not a doctor. I do not work in the ER, but
right.
As I understand it, this is the way it works.
And I say it's a good thing that I don't work in the ER, because if I had access to heroin, I would be trying to get as much of that as I can on the side to sell it.
So,
I'd be mixing it with rat poison and selling it on the street.
Don't do that. No, you need return clients. That's how you make money as a drug
it's residual.
dealer.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then once they patched you all up, right? They, whatever they do for cracked sternums, probably very little. They probably give you like a harness or something, like a hard case chest thing.
Yeah.
To immobilize you, like a back brace or something.
A cast.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
It's like a body cast, is what I imagine.
I have no idea. But anyway, they would let you go. And at which point they would probably give you something like codeine.
I would think so.
They wouldn't give you diamorphine. They send you home with diamorphine.
Right.
But the thing is that you have now spent a week on heroin in a controlled setting, to be fair. And now you're on codeine.
But what you said a little bit ago is that sometimes you take one little bit and it gets its claws into you.
Correct. So the thing is, though, is that this is standard procedure for basically all hospitals of worthy of the name in the U.S. But the point is, where I'm going with this is only, I don't remember the exact percentage, but it's like only like 10 to 15% of people who leave emergency rooms end up addicted to diamorphine.
Who was it? I read this somewhere. It's like you're statistically more likely to like die in a plane crash than you are to get addicted to crack cocaine or heroin your first time.
I have no idea. It's certainly not the cultural perception.
No, it's not at all. But I just remember reading that stat and thinking,
so the thing is, so where I'm going with this is our model of addiction is not. It appears
Right.
there is evidence in the margins that says that our model of addiction isn't accurate.
But again, how much of it do people pass off as a physical addiction when it is indeed just a psychological addiction?
Right. Well, we hold that heroin is a physical addiction, right? Because
I feel, not to interrupt, but to say that yes, it can be, but what if you think that you're addicted to this substance?
Right.
It can also be a psychological addiction.
So you can have both. You can certainly have both. But so one of the big like hallmarks of physical addiction is if you cut it cold turkey, then you could die. Mm-hmm. Like, so that like your body systems may shut down, like your brain like needs this thing to function, and that happens with opiate addiction.
Let me ask you a question real quick.
Yeah.
What do we need to function with this podcast? We'll be right back.
Yeah.
Hey listeners, let me tell you about how to help us help you become more informed and more entertained.
Yeah, so go to our Patreon page and take a look at what we have to offer. We appreciate you joining our conversation and in the process helping us get better equipment, better content, and provide you with even more content.
Not only that, but Patreon has a tiered system of rewards that lets us give back to those who give more. We've got a ton of things planned as rewards, from unscripted before and after recordings of spontaneous conversations to conversations that try and get Randy to actually read something for a change, with interesting and hilarious consequences if he doesn't, to Randall's Rants, where I try to see just how easy it is for Randy to fly off the handle for basically no reason.
Here's a hint, it's pretty fucking easy. Remember, by becoming a patron, you are directly assisting in the growth and ability for us to move us one step closer to providing more and better content, and soon enough, do it full time.
Aw, yeah. So, to learn more, go to patreon.com/TWTAPATREON. That's patreon.com/TWTA Patreon to learn more about our goals and what we've got to offer.
Thanks for spelling it out for us, buddy. And we're back.
Oh, we're back.
Okay, so what is that about China and the...
Oh, it's just
Whatever
so
you're
just
saying.
some updates on the Opium Wars, the first Opium War. During the break, I had some time to go back into my research and check it out. And so the UK, Britain was trading with China, but it was extremely limited. Basically, China, the way it was set, China had set things up is China could buy whatever it wanted from anyone else, but in this case specifically Britain, it could buy whatever Britain had to offer. But China, through a series of systems, only allowed the UK to buy from essentially provinces on that bordered the sea, and only 13 specific factories, and then because they did not allow the British to buy from anything manufactured or whatever from interior China, which, if you've looked at a map lately, is most of China.
Right.
Right. And so the British got super tired and felt it was an imbalance, and eventually they
introduced
they
opium.
they went to war. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Well, we'll go into that more detail later or something.
Well, here's my question for you, because we were just talking about the negative sides to, I guess, you said 15% of people get addicted to morphine or diamorphine in the hospital, and that's it.
Yeah.
Because the amount of people that happens to, that's not a very large number.
Right. So 100 people leave the emergency room a day, and it's way more than 100.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Only 10 to 15 of them will develop this sort of physical addiction that we're talking about.
So this sort of physical addiction, is there a program in place? So let's say the hospital kicks these people out and gives them a script. Is there a program to help wean them off of this potential addiction?
No. There are rehab facilities, but
Okay.
there's to my knowledge, I do not run of a hospital, but it is not standard practice to step down, especially because what we would recognize as addiction wouldn't occur until their scripts ran out.
True.
Right?
Yep.
Usually. Unless you just go ham on your prescription and just eat a month's worth in a week or something.
Yeah.
In which case you would probably be dead anyway.
Possibly.
You would not be in a good way. Your liver would not appreciate it.
The liver wouldn't appreciate
Yeah,
it, but your
yeah.
brain sure would.
Yeah, even then. It hurts so good. So yeah.
So how do you feel with that knowledge when people say, "Oh, I don't like taking pain medicine"?
So I think that generally speaking,
Okay.
if we're talking about medicine that only affects you, and some medicines have effects on those around you, but so if we're talking about a medicine like diamorphine that only affects only you,
Okay.
at least in the immediate term, then if you don't want to take it, don't take it. That's fine. There are lots of valid reasons not to do so.
Like what?
If it makes them loopy.
Yeah.
Or
and
something
that's
like that.
the biggest.
If they're a
Bugaboo.
construction worker, they cannot operate heavy machinery while on diamorphine or
To be fair, you can. You would just not be.
Well, you're not supposed to. You could get hella sued
Yeah.
if you did that. So if that's their livelihood or whatever.
Right.
Or maybe they're terrified of addiction. Because the loss of control. Right, it's terrifying.
Yeah, I got a buddy that doesn't drink, won't do any drugs or anything like that because he doesn't like not being in control
Yep.
of his thoughts. Now, I love the opposite of that because I'm okay with not being in control.
Clearly. Yeah. I've seen what your closet looks like.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, so control really plays into it. A lot. So other than that, I'm not sure what reasons that would come up besides being scared of addiction and not wanting to lose control.
Yeah, well, a lot of people also have bad memories.
Oh yeah, if you have
of,
like a family member,
a loved
that,
one, or like your mother. Like in my case, my mother was on pain medicine most of my life, and she's already like I love her, but she's not super bright, and
there's a little bit of burnoutage happened there.
possibly, or maybe she was always that way. I don't remember.
You didn't know her then?
No, yeah, I mean it was well before my time, but she got diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and was given a tremendous amount of painkillers for it. And instead of like focusing on happiness and like positivity and trying to work your way through it, she became depressed and just took pain medicine.
Was I reading? Oh no, it wasn't fibromyalgia. Something they I think it's not fibromyalgia, but I think there is an equivalent where like it can often be it's either misunderstood or misdiagnosed, and if you make
Both.
those mistakes, the way you treat it can exacerbate the symptoms.
Oh yeah,
And make them worse.
I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she kicked him. She waited till after, I was an adult, and then some shit happened in her life.
Did she take them while she was pregnant with you?
Possibly. Mm-hmm. I mean, no, she wasn't diagnosed after I was born. But
Okay.
I mean, maybe that's the cause of my medical problems. Now she was on painkillers, and I could always tell when she took them, because she would go from being like a normal person to just having this glossy look in her eyes, and like nothing registered, and there was almost like no emotion.
Yeah. She was high.
Yeah, which
High
I mean, I
balls.
could be high and have lots of emotion,
Yeah.
but it's a
It's a different kind of high.
it's robotic.
Yeah.
Because I don't like the way that I feel when I take painkillers.
Yeah, both of my mom's parents were alcoholics, and so while she does drink, she was very, very adamant about not drinking around my brother and I, and she drank completely responsibly. It wasn't until I was like 16 or 17 that she actually like had more than 1 or 2 beers.
Right.
Which
Which is interesting because my mom doesn't really drink. But I have a friend who you've met, whose mother-in-law was also diagnosed with fibromyalgia and given a tremendous amount of painkillers to treat it, and wasn't able, quote unquote, not able to work because she's on painkillers all the time. Can't drive because she's on painkillers all the time. Wasn't taking care of herself or like her dog. Her dog was like starving because she was on painkillers all the time and loopy as fuck.
Yeah.
And they had to have her Baker acted.
Yeah.
And then of course that became a thing. But she kicked the painkillers. But like that's the same friend of mine who's like, I won't touch even ibuprofen unless I absolutely have to.
Yeah. So getting back to whether or not there are programs for people who are addicted right out of the gate. To my knowledge, not in the U.S. I believe places like Portugal and Switzerland and stuff like that.
Obscure countries.
Well, so Portugal decriminalized all drugs.
Okay.
And Switzerland had a huge heroin problem, and they decriminalized it. And
No.
more on that later.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I was gonna ask some questions.
Coming
but
there. I'm going. Yeah.
We'll hold off.
Yeah. More on that later. So there was a guy. I'll put the study information in the show notes. But there was who was a research scientist, and he looked at the stats for people getting addicted to opiates out of the emergency room, and he's like, "This science tells me that something's wrong."
Yeah.
Right? Either we're not collecting the data right, or or our model of addiction is wrong. And so he went for the model of addiction first, because it's the oldest, right?
So it's probably been the most discovered.
Yeah. Do you know how we actually test how addictive a substance is?
I have no idea.
Okay. So what you do is you have a rat, and you put it in a cage, and you give it one kind of food and 2 bottles of water, one of which is just water and one of which is water
Plus substance.
with the substance you're testing, right? And there's like no real bedding or anything like that. It's just a rat in a cage. And so what you do is then you run the test, and the way you run the test is you wait to see how long it will take the rat to only consume the water with the substance in it, and eventually it like starves to death. Because all it wants is the substance.
Now, I've heard of a study that debunks a lot of those tests, where the rat is placed in to like an open area with a bunch of other rats that have a social life.
Right. That's the study I'm talking
and then it
about.
stops taking the heroin stuff.
So that's that guy. That's this guy I'm talking about.
Same guy.
Yeah.
Cool.
And so basically, what he did, because he has to run the control, that was the control experiment, right?
Yeah.
And so then what he does is he creates what's called Rat City, because the idea is that the whole point, the data that we get from this experiment is how addictive is this to a human in their everyday life.
Right.
But the original, the way we test addiction now, that's not a rat's everyday life. That's not not their normal. So, what's the deal? That doesn't make any sense. So he created Rat City, which there was like 3 different kinds of food and bedding and other rats.
In my normal life, I don't do heroin, but if I was locked in a cage
Yeah.
and had to choose between heroin and not heroin,
Yeah.
I'd be getting high all day.
Yeah. Yeah. So exactly. And so it turns out that the rats didn't touch the addictive bottle. And if they did, they didn't like it and they never went back to it.
Crazy, because they're happy.
Yeah, because they had what they needed.
Right.
And so he says like, okay, well maybe we're only half wrong. Maybe it's like a switch that gets flipped in your head.
Okay.
Right. And so like maybe you are either genetically or some other way
More likely
vulnerable.
to be.
Yeah. And once it's in you, maybe not all the time you're vulnerable,
right?
But you can be, and if it gets you, then you are addicted from
I don't know what that's called. I've always referred to it as like the threshold, your
Yeah,
biological threshold. You're born with the chance of this developing in your life, so long as these things happen to you in your life.
So what he did was he ran the first experiment about halfway through when the rat was thoroughly addicted, and he takes the rat and he puts it into Rat City, and the rat recovers. The rat is no longer addicted.
No shit.
So
positive.
Yeah.
Friends,
it doesn't want. Yeah, exactly.
Banging rats.
And so his what he puts forward, his conclusion, is that addiction is not a word that we should be using. It doesn't work. It's not. There's no recovering the word addiction, right? It means what we believe it to mean. It means physical
regardless
addiction.
of what the literal definition is.
That
is what people think of when they hear it.
So he says that instead we should be using a word like bonding.
Bonding.
Right? And so the idea is, to him, that there's something missing in your life.
A ball gag.
No,
bonding.
not bondage.
Okay.
No, bonding. There's something missing, like maybe, your father didn't hug you enough growing up, or you just can't seem to hold down a romantic relationship or something.
Okay.
Pick something. And so instead of bonding to whatever that is, that person or that experience
Right.
or whatever, your brain instead bonds to this chemical.
Interesting.
And so it basically stabilizes your psychology using that.
If you go up to the most of the people that are addicted to drugs, there's a good chance they either didn't know their dad or
Yeah.
they... Right.
Yeah. And so it also explains, like, because there were lots of questions that go into this. And it's like, why is it that you can take someone, send them to a, 13-week program or something like that.
And they're good.
And have them completely good. And then they relapse within like a week.
Because they come right back to their previous...
Because they haven't changed their circumstances.
Right.
Is the conclusion
Yeah,
that he put forward.
I got a friend who is from California, got into a lot of trouble in California. Flew over here to stay with his brother to get away from the trouble he was getting into in California.
Yeah.
And, quote unquote, got his life together here, but now wants to go back. And we're kind of having like a countdown to see how long it takes for him to get back into trouble again.
Yeah.
Because he's going to be hanging back and running with his old crew again.
Because if he didn't change who he was,
right,
then he's just going to be the same person in the same place.
And who you are is a conversation for next time.
Correct. That is the next episode. So Portugal. Right. So if addiction was this like nasty beast, this boogeyman, Portugal should have burned to the ground.
No,
Right.
Are we talking about addiction or bondage?
Addiction.
Okay.
Bondage would be another episode. Maybe bonus content. Probably bonus content. Basically, Portugal decriminalized all drugs in 2005, I think it was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, like, if anything we would hear, if it was going to burn down, it would have happened. Like, if they would have had real problems, that law
I need to
would
learn to
have
speak
taken care of.
Portugalian.
Portuguese. But then you can go to Brazil or Portugal, whatever.
Which one has the legalized heroin?
Portugal.
Yeah. There's your answer, buddy.
So basically what they did was they took all of the money that would have been spent on policing and prosecuting, jailing, and like funding hospital stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
For heroin ODs and crack ODs and whatever. And they put it towards government-run rehab facilities.
Okay.
And so basically what it is they're counseling centers that allow you to step down off the drug and allow you to sort of like come to those conclusions in your life so you can fix the reasons you're addicted in the first place.
Yeah, and it's not like AA isn't super effective. To be honest, it's not.
I mean, it depends on the person, but they're saying is they also have a paradigm of you're always addicted forever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that
And
still runs contrary.
Until you get Jesus.
Well, no, even still, no, that just helps with you resisting being addicted,
Oh, I understand completely.
Yeah,
I get it. Interesting. So you're saying that heroin in the right environment, in the right circumstance, can be kicked regardless of physical...
Yes, absolutely. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So like, obviously, to my knowledge, no studies have been done.
But, no, because Portugal's a good example of that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so yeah,
I mean,
maybe
what's the quote-unquote addiction?
So when I heard
right?
kicked, I thought cold turkey. So I don't know if you've been doing heroin for 3 years straight, if you could kick it cold turkey, if you suddenly got the thing that heroin was replacing.
I mean, in this context, gone regardless of how.
Yeah. So in of course over a series of months, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say these rehabilitation facilities kick up, but people still run with their old crowd. Do you think they're more likely to, kick the habit because these facilities?
No. So like, they can. So it's like the cat came back, right? There's like that old song that sort of like repeats itself, where they keep trying to get rid of the cat.
Yeah.
They like put it on a hot air balloon, but he's on the steps the next morning or something like that.
That actually happened to my cat. Well, not a hot air balloon, but
yeah,
cat
like
ran
so
away.
like the story has like at least 5 or more stanzas, right? Where like cycles, and the cat always comes back, and no matter what they do, he always comes back. But they're always living in the same place. right? And so if you became addicted in Portugal and went to a Portuguese, facility for rehab and stuff like that, and then immediately returned to the life that you were living beforehand as the same person,
Right.
then the cat's going to come back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I that makes complete sense.
Yeah.
I'm not doing very good at this arguing with you, man, because, like, I prepared some arguments in the idea that you would be on the other side.
Of what? That no one should do opiates ever?
Yeah, I thought you would be more leaning in that direction.
Surprise.
No, it's cool, because this happened in another episode, too, where, like, I had planned all these arguments. And you just said, like, preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
And that's really what you're trying to avoid with these episodes. So my apologies.
Yeah, honestly.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, a little bit of that, but I like not necessarily even arguing, but just asking the tough questions.
Well, no, and I think that hitting me with left field counterpoints and hard hitting counterpoints is as important as asking the right elaboration stuff to get the full context of things. Because I more or less know all this stuff, but because I know it, I don't necessarily know that I should say it.
Right?
No,
you're right.
Right. Yeah. So whatever. Whichever way an episode goes, that's cool. So Switzerland. I think it was Switzerland. I'm almost certain
it's one of those. Nobody's gonna fact check you.
Nobody fact checks on the internet. But good thing we have show notes to correct ourselves. Believe it was Switzerland. Had a huge problem with heroin. And they decriminalized it, and again took all of the money that would have gone into dealing with the criminalized substance and used it to fund what I can only refer to as government-run shooting galleries, where basically you could go to these places, get clean needles,
and then get a gun,
and then shoot up.
Shoot up.
Yeah, heroin.
Okay. So government endorsed heroin places. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like
it's wild,
completely
man.
absurd.
Yeah, it does.
But drug crime went down. They people actually were able to get their addiction rates went down. Because in these facilities they also had drug counseling services available.
Right, to educate people.
Exactly.
Just going back to what we talked about before, is that a lot of it is that the lack of education, because we either learn do or don't do. Mm-hmm. We don't learn, like, if you do, then what, why, and what's going to happen.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times, like in the U.S. and in countries that are big drug criminalization countries, when you shoot up something like heroin, you're not just shooting up heroin, you're also shooting up like shame and stuff like that.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, and so what Switzerland did was they removed the shame from the process as well.
So you're not ashamed of doing this.
Right, and so like you don't have that like wallowing in self-pity sort of thing either. That can be addictive in and of itself.
I mean, it might be legal like through the government, but it might still be a problem among the populace.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, it's like riding a Segway.
I don't know their what their stats are, mm-hmm. but I know that it was worth it, right? So
sure.
So you also saw a decrease in like ER costs, like public ER costs and stuff like that, because you didn't have people shooting up with half heroin, half rat poison, right? Because you had regulated stuff available, and you didn't have people sharing needles, so you would have seen intravenous diseases,
right?
Like,
less HIV, less
dropping stuff,
right.
hepatitis C, stuff like that. Yeah, so you would have seen those go through the floor as well. It provides an alternative, and it does seem counterintuitive, but once you actually see it on paper, and then you see a country like Switzerland, it's
solid. I agree with you.
Yeah. So all of that to say, so we're gonna circle back now to opiates.
Okay.
Right. So you asked me like, is like heroin crazy addictive? And my answer is, well, yes. But it is just a chemical that is particularly suited to fill the holes in your life.
Yeah. A lot of people use God. A lot of people use various forms of
and
filling
the same
holes.
Guy, by the way, the guy who did the Rat City.
Yeah.
He had an uncle, I believe, who was addicted to gambling. And in the process of doing this research, like I think it might, so I may have gotten that backwards. He was addicted to cocaine, but he went to a Gamblers Anonymous
became addicted to
meeting
gambling?
or something like that. Yeah. Well, no, so to a Gamblers Anonymous meeting, and he said that the stories that they were telling were identical to what he saw growing up around his uncle. And so what the idea of bonding instead of addiction also does, it allows us to include these compulsions that don't actually involve like sex addiction and stuff like that.
Right.
That don't actually involve substances.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's like filling one empty hole in your life, jumping from a substance that is potentially dangerous and going to kill you. Well, is dangerous, could potentially kill you.
Yeah.
To filling it with something that is less dangerous and not going to kill you.
It's not a big conceptual jump, you know. So and it doesn't necessarily like the way that you presented it, like you don't have to jump from a substance addiction to a behavioral compulsion, right? You can just start with a behavioral compulsion.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I got it. Because some people are compulsive, but it's not some sort of substance that's making them that way. They just act.
And there are arguments that could be made. It's the rush or whatever, like the neurotransmitters.
Absolutely. I mean, I've met people who are addicted to, not to go into too much into addiction, but addicted to like they're liking on their Facebook.
Oh,
and they're always checking their phones to see if someone liked their post.
Yeah. That comes down to like the breadth of compulsion, right?
Yeah.
And what
which we'll expand into that.
Oh
on
yeah,
the addiction
compulsions
episode.
is a whole thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that what we got?
I think so. Like, how are we doing on time?
We're good, man.
All right,
ladies and
Good to
gentlemen.
go.
This has been.
That's what we talked about.
Fair enough.
If the quarter was in your right